Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back. Este es el segundo episodio de nuestro serial sobre Northern Ireland. Bueno, gracias a toda la gente que se interesó. Recuerden que esto es un repaso histórico, ¿sí? Y desde los hechos en un material que hemos conseguido desde Open University y gracias a la colaboración y con el material también de audiovisual de BBC Archive. No estamos ni a favor ni en contra, o sea, no estamos tirando ninguna línea, simplemente estamos exhibiendo lo que pasó en esto conocido como The Troubles en los 70 y esta tensión entre las dos Irlandas, Irlanda del Norte y esta lucha entre estos enfrentamientos entre católicos y protestantes. Este capítulo se llama Interment, Protest and Bloody Sunday. Bueno, el internment se le conocía como el derecho a poder encarcelar a una persona sin juicio previo, ¿sí? Consideraban desde el gobierno, desde el gobierno, el primer ministro de Northern Ireland, consideraba que esa era una de las formas también de poder reducir y dejar sin cabeza a los movimientos, sin líderes. No fue una buena idea. Eso tuvo un backlash, protest y bueno, justamente el Bloody Sunday es lo que vamos a ver también hoy. Así que bueno, vamos por ahí, ¿sí? Bien, dice Interment. British troops were initially welcomed by both sides as a peacekeeping force. ¿Qué pasó? Bueno, el comienzo de los problemas no fue de un día para el otro. Es decir, ¿qué pasó? El gobierno británico, eh, las tropas británicas, los Brits, como le dicen allá, intervinieron para qué? Para mantener como peacekeeping, es decir, de los dos lados había lo que se llamaba interface, ¿sí? No una interfaz de usuario, interface. La interface era la vereda de acá protestante, la vereda de acá católica. Había una división en una calle. Así de incómodo y así de awkward era todo. Y las fuerzas británicas estaban como para manejar el tema de que no haya enfrentamientos entre las dos partes. Y dice, British troops were initially welcomed by both sides, ¿sí? Tanto protestantes como católicos, as a peacekeeping force. However, in nationalist districts, policing was still extremely controversial, and at the army was increasingly used as a replacement for the RUC, es decir, reemplazaban la fuerza militar británica por la policía local, lo cual era una fuerza intervencionista, lo cual generó más malestar del lado nacionalista irlandés. By the summer of 1971, 68 people had been killed, and street battles were taking place regularly. Brian Faulkner became prime minister in March of 1971 and suggested internment, which means imprisonment without trial, as a possible solution to the rising tide of violence. Well, no. It was agreed, and on 9 August that year, internment was officially began. ¿Qué trajo esto? Sí, trajo esto, sí. Violence. In 1971, three off-duty soldiers were lured from a bar and shot in Ligonier. Esto pasó, ¿qué pasó? Bueno, habría tres soldados británicos adentro de un bar, se los llevaron afuera, los provocaron y fueron asesinados en la calle. The Red Lion Bar on the Orma Road was bombed and three people died. A bomb was detonated at McCourk's Bar in North Belfast, killing 15 people. Although initially blamed on the IRA, loyalists had planted the device. Es decir, estamos hablando de violencia de no solamente del IRA, sino también de los loyalists. Habían creado una fuerza paramilitar del lado también, los fieles a Gran Bretaña, que trabajaban junto con el ejército, sí, pero eran una fuerza clandestina. Two babies were among the four dead in a bomb attack at the Balmoral Furniture Company in the Sunkill Road in Belfast, and in 1971 sectarian shootings also became more prevalent, es decir, los tiroteos de los dos lados. Acá vemos la foto, a woman cries as she surveys the scene at McCourk's Bar following the bomb in December 1971. Esto estaba escalando, ¿sí? Operation Demetrius. Under the Special Powers Act, esto es justamente una especie de decreto que salió desde el Parlamento, internment gave the authorities the power to imprison people without trial, así como lo escuchen, sí, poner en prisión gente sin juicio previo. A series of raids on the homes of suspects was carried out by the RUC and the army in the early hours of 9 August. It was codenamed Operation Demetrius. Esto le daba lugar a las fuerzas militares y a la RUC de meterse en las casas de gente que consideran sospechosos y hacerle un raid y un allanamiento de la casa. Let's watch this.
And first, the headlines. 2 men have died in rioting in Belfast after a big roundup of suspects this morning, which was followed by an official announcement that there's to be internment. There's also been rioting in Newry and Londonderry.
What time did they come in?
20 minutes to 5, and told him he had 2 minutes to get dressed.
He was arrested under the Special Powers Act. How many people have been arrested around here?
Well, as far as we know, there's about 7 or 8. And there's far more than that.
I said last week that we were at the edge of a precipice, and I asked the Westminster government and the British Army not to push us over, but they have.
La idea del internment no estaba surtiendo efecto y obviamente era antidemocrática, obviamente no, pero bueno, era la única forma de imponer desde este terrorismo que estaba habiendo de este lado, también por parte del Estado, ¿no? Lo que llevó a que escale la violencia. Consequences. The authorities though were relying on information which was not up to date, and some key Republican leaders were able to abscond over the Irish border. Dice que, bueno, básicamente la inteligencia de las autoridades no estaba, digamos, muy actualizada y líderes digamos, del movimiento pudieron irse para el otro lado, a la República de Irlanda. The operation triggered disturbances throughout Northern Ireland. In Belfast's Ballymurphy area, 10 civilians were shot and killed by the army between 9 and 11 August 1971, including a priest as he went to the aid of another victim. Así como lo ven, ¿sí? 1971 fue el año más sangriento de estos troubles, ¿sí? En la calle. Y bueno, con esta división que había, ¿sí? No estaba claro quién era quién, no había un ejército, es decir, el ejército británico estaba ahí tratando de mantener la paz, pero obviamente nadie sabía quién era del IRA o quién era Loyalist, era todo tan secreto, así que bueno, eso provocó una medida tan extrema. It is believed that 16,000 households withheld rent and rates as part of the Social Democratic and Labour Party's Civil Disobedience Campaign. Dejaron de pagar la renta 16,000 familias. Internees complained that they received brutal treatment in custody and anti-internment feelings rose. The Compton Report, which was published in November 1971, investigated these complaints. It claimed that investigation had not led us to conclude that any of the grouped or individual complaints suffered physical brutality as we understand the term. Hubo denuncias, sí señores, de torturas. La idea del internment no estaba buena. Anti-internment rallies became frequent, notably on 22nd January 1972, the Northern Ireland Civil Rights Association held a march at Magillian Strand, County Londonderry. Soldiers from the Parachute Regiment and the Green Jackets stopped the demonstrators with a fence of barbed wire. Pusieron una barra de alambre de púa. And they approached the internment camp, o sea, iban a liberar a los presos. Security forces deployed CS gas and used batons and rubber bullets against the protesters. La represión usual, ¿no? El gas y, bueno, balas de goma. Esto llevó al Bloody Sunday, ¿sí? El conocido Bloody Sunday. A week after the events of Magilligan, on Sunday, 30 January 1972, 13 people were killed and 15 injured at an anti-internment march in Derry when soldiers from the Parachute Regiment opened fire on demonstrators totalmente desarmados. The day became known, unfortunately, as the Bloody Sunday. Imágenes, imágenes que pueden, bueno, ser sensibles.
The march began in an almost carnival atmosphere as thousands of people from the Bogside, Cregan and Brandywell districts gathered in a sports field on the Cregan estate before setting off on their illegal march around the Catholic districts on the west bank of the River Foyle. The march proceeded quietly enough through the Catholic districts, and arm-banded stewards kept the demonstrators from coming into close contact with troops who were manning barricades on the edge of their route. It was after the procession got up to the army barricade at the top of William Street, just a couple of hundred yards from the Guildhall Square, that violence erupted. Young bloods at the head of the procession, ignoring the appeals of their stewards, began to pelt police and troops with bricks. The static confrontation between the troops and the demonstrators went on for several minutes. Finally, the troops took the offensive as men of the 1st Battalion, the Parachute Regiment, went roaring into the Bogside with armoured cars in support to arrest as many rioters as they could lay their hands on. The first body I saw was that of a youth being carried out by other civilians with a priest in the lead, waving a bloodied handkerchief as a white flag.
Can you tell me what happened when the paratroopers came in, Father?
They came in and they just came in firing. The people, there was no provocation whatsoever.
Firing what, rubber bullets?
No, it was lead bullets they fired. They seemed to fire in all directions. There's some rubber bullets too. They didn't even seem to fire gas. It was completely outrageous, disgraceful. I don't know. They call themselves an army. It's utterly disgraceful.
Are you quite sure that nothing was fired at them first?
There was nothing fired at them, sir. I'm absolutely certain of that. I can speak of this without any difficulty whatsoever because I was there. I was just standing at the flats when the Saracens moved in, first of all, and there was nothing fired at them, positively nothing fired at them whatsoever. There weren't even stones fired. The people ran in all directions and they opened fire. Most people had their backs to them when they opened fire at the time.
They did not fire until they were fired upon. And my information at the moment, and it is almost immediately after the incident, is that the Para Battalion fired 3 rounds altogether after they'd had something between 10 and 20 fired at them from the area of the Rossville flats over there.
They fired 3 rounds only?
My information at the moment...
I believe that there are more than 3 dead. I've seen 3 dead myself.
Well, they may well not have been killed by our soldiers.
Possibly not.
Ok, esto fue el Domingo Sangriento. Esto está en los libros de historia, sí. Y bueno, como decía recién el reportero, había versiones de los dos lados, ¿no? Como que esa gente que fue asesinada por las fuerzas, según decía el militar, había sido asesinados por la fuerza del otro ejército y se culpaban entre ellos. Una escena totalmente caótica. Hubo un debate en el Parlamento de los Comunes y, bueno, dice, the circumstances and events of Bloody Sunday were debated on 1st January 1972 in the House of Commons, and the Home Secretary Reginald Morley announced there would be an inquiry. Okay. After this, the Unity Party MP and civil rights campaigner Bernadette Devlin was present in Derry on the day and wanted to give her version of events, but was refused the right to speak. Maudling said, when people fire on troops, when people attack soldiers with bullets and bombs, they must expect retaliation. Devlin has incensed. I have a right, as the only representative in this house who was an eyewitness, to ask a question of that murdering hypocrite. She crossed the common floor and slapped his face. Aquí la tenemos a Bernadette Devlin.
The British Home Secretary got up and made what he called a statement. It did not have one substantiated fact in it. It lasted 3 minutes, and at no stage did he even say, I regret the fact that 13 people are dead.
So this was an emotional reaction of your own?
It wasn't an emotional reaction, it was quite coldly and calmly done. I was the only member of Parliament who was in the chamber, who was in Derry yesterday. I was fired on by the paratroopers, and yet parliamentary democracy was such that I was not allowed to speak.
But what do you think you would achieve by that action of yours this afternoon?
What I achieved was simply delivering to the Home Secretary a simple proletarian protest, the fact that he was responsible for the murder of 13 people. And as far as I'm concerned, that was simply a token effort.
Do you feel any share of responsibility in what happened yesterday, Ms. Devlin?
No, we had 20,000 people marching on our streets. The streets belong to us. We have a right to be there. We had 3,000 soldiers with no right to be there.
Do you intend to apologise to Mr. Maudling?
I'm just sorry I didn't get him by the throat.
Cuando la prensa le pregunta si se va a disculpar, dice, me arrepiento de no haberlo agarrado del cuello, básicamente. Bloody Sunday reactions. There was an outrage in the United Kingdom and beyond. In the Republic of Ireland, there was a mass protest, a national day of mourning. Mourning is como when someone died, you mourn. Mourning was announced, and there which saw the closure of shops, businesses, and transport services. Thousands attended a march in Dublin, and some demonstrations were made their way to Merrion Square, where the British Embassy building was set alight. Yes, they burned the building.
We live in the neighbourhood of the residence of the British Ambassador, and we feel that we would like him to know how his neighbours feel about the conduct of his troops in the northern part of this country.
Tell him to ask the Queen, as the head of a family, as well as the head of a country, to intervene personally in the affairs of Northern Ireland.
I will indeed.
The first petrol bombs set fire to the window frames on the first floor of the elegant Georgian building in Dublin's Merrion Square. It's been the British Embassy since 1949. Mock coffins were loaded against the front door. They were to be instrumental in causing the fire to gain hold. Even though the flames began to get a grip on the building, much to the delight of the crowd, there was no interference from the authorities. I understood there were fire engines in nearby side roads, but they could not get to the blazing building. The police did nothing to stop people continuing to throw petrol bombs. Petrol igniting on the pavements did make the police move the crowd back, but that was all. By this time, the embassy was thoroughly alight, and no one was making any effort to put it out.
By the time the crowd allowed the firemen to operate, it was too late to save the 4-story Georgian building from the flames started by the earlier spate of petrol bombing.
Solo sobrevivió digamos, la estructura de la embajada. Fue bombardeada la embajada y las relaciones entre la República de Irlanda y el Reino Unido durante 10 años estuvieron muy restringidas. Bien, the Witchery Tribunal. Widely considered a whitewash, Lord Witchery report found no fault on the part of the army on Bloody Sunday. He concluded, there would have been no deaths in Londonderry on 30 January if those who organized the illegal march had not thereby created a highly dangerous situation in which a clash between demonstrators and the security forces was almost inevitable, and that there was no general breakdown in discipline. The individual soldier ought to have to bear the burden of deciding whether to open fire in confusion, such as prevailed on 30 January. Este fue el descargo de el gobierno británico, totalmente, obviamente, liberando al ejército de esa situación tensa. Polémico. The Savile Inquiry. Ok, an inquiry, en este caso puede llegar a ser una consulta, ¿sí? Pero justamente creo que es un término legislativo. Y dice, puede ser una iniciativa. The families of those who died campaigned tirelessly for a new inquiry, es decir, un nuevo proyecto. 30 years after the event, Lord Savile's findings were markedly different to those of Lord Witchery. He found that none of those killed were posing a threat to causing death or serious injuries. Estaban desarmados. What happened on Bloody Sunday strengthened the provisional IRA. Es decir, lo del Bloody Sunday, ese asesinato, digamos, que hicieron los soldados británicos, lo que hizo fue fortalecer el crecimiento del IRA, el Provisional IRA, del ejército provisional. Increased nationalist resentment and hostility towards the army and exacerbated the violent conflict of the years that followed. Bloody Sunday was a tragedy for the bereaved and the wounded, and a catastrophe for the people of Northern Ireland. That's what it was. Ok, esto marcó, en consecuencia, el fin de esta idea de la prisión sin juicio. During the internment period, a total of 1,981 people were detained. Catholics, 94%. Nationalists or Protestants, 55%, or Unionists, o los Loyalists y los Unionists son los protestantes, ¿sí? Y los católicos son los otros. Pueden ver que los números son bastante, elocuentes. Internment ended on December 5, 1975, but the camps in which internees were held were about to become a central focus of the conflict. The status of prisoners was a hugely contentious issue. Protests in the prisons began to center on a new issue brought about by an end to special category status. They say they were political prisoners. No tenían un tratamiento de civiles, tenían un tratamiento de delincuentes comunes, es decir, no eran presos, no tenían un estatus de presos políticos, tenían un estatus de criminales, básicamente.
In the 6 months before internment, there were 25 deaths. In the 6 months following internment, there were 185. Increasingly, from the middle of 1972, the areas from which the IRA operated were saturated with troops. The result was better intelligence and the beginning of a second phase of internment based on a new procedure and more accurate identification of who was in the IRA. With phase 2 internment, there's an immediate change in the pattern of monthly deaths. From that peak in July 1972, the graph shows a steady reduction as internment is increased.
Of course it hurts the sympathetic onlookers on both sides. And of course they will scream that we are doing more harm politically and socially and legally and all sorts of other ways than good by removing these men. But the essential fact, which any soldier knows far better than any of the people who debate it elsewhere, is this, that you have got to put out of circulation the men who are doing the killing, the men who are doing the bombing, and the men who are setting alight the fires.
Internment has wrecked my life and wrecked my children's lives, and the uncertainty of not knowing when my husband's coming home. And being afraid at night when the soldiers comes in and frightening the kids and frightening me. Searching in cupboards and drawers and under beds and everything else. And it's very hard to live in anything that we're getting.
Overall, my guess is that it's been more of a recruiting instrument than it has a repressive instrument. I think it's probably encouraged more people to come forward and assist the IRA than it has to discourage people.
My aim in releasing all detainees has been because I passionately want to act through the normal channels of the law. And a respect for the rule of law is important. In the course of next year, we'll begin to phase out special category, the so-called political prisoner, for the most heinous crimes.
La cárcel, conocida como el laberinto o The Maze, fue la unidad especial donde iban a ir estos presos de, bueno, de los dos lados, ¿sí? Loyalists o Unionists y, digamos, miembros del IRA. Vemos según los números aquí, ¿no? Que, bueno, durante este periodo un 94,6% eran católicos o nacionalistas y un 5% eran Unionists o protestantes. Sí. La creación del Maze llevó a otro conflicto más adelante, pero bueno, esto nos lleva al próximo capítulo, ¿sí? Hasta aquí llegamos con el segundo capítulo de Northern Ireland explicado. Y bueno, veamos qué viene más adelante. Vamos. Recrudecen los problemas. The Troubles, como decía el otro día, es una especie de eufemismo para referirse a una guerra civil, básicamente, que hubo entre estas dos facciones, ¿sí? Por un lado, el IRA y por otro lado, los Unionists, los Loyalists, que también tenían una fuerza que era paramilitar dentro de la sociedad civil. Lo que sigue en el próximo capítulo, bueno, internment had not been the deterrent to violence the government had expected. The year after the policy was introduced was the most deadly of the troubles. In 1972, the British government introduced the direct rule. Eso vamos a hablar en el próximo episodio de este serial de Northern Ireland. Gracias por su atención. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Sigan el canal. Y bueno, esto es para mis alumnos. Esto es material exclusivo. Lo pueden ver antes. Y si no, bueno, bienvenidos a este serial de Northern Ireland. Nos vemos en el próximo video.